Shrink Wrap Radio number 313, Building Heaven on Earth with Dr. Dwight Webb.
Shrink Wrap Radio. All the psychology you need to know and just enough to make it dangerous. It's all in your head. And now here's your host, Dr. Dave.
My guest today is my longtime friend and soul brother, Dwight Webb, who I interviewed back in 2007 on episode number 68 about his book, The Soul of Counseling. Today we'll be discussing his latest book, which argues for reclaiming our spiritual lives apart from organized religion.
Here's a piece from the early introduction in the preface where I say, spirituality is the core of our humanness, and religions are but one avenue to this overarching dimension of our lives. Our spiritual lives are the essence of who we are and how we express our vitality, our aliveness. Whether we're religious or not, it's our compassion, kindness, and forgiveness that are based in love and respect for all life. These are the dominant impulses within the human family and much larger than the scope of religion, and so on and so forth. But that, I think, captures a real strong theme and a piece that I expand throughout the book. I don't think it's just the Christians, or not just the Islamics, or not just the Jewish, but a lot of people I think, are yearning for and questing for meaning, and we don't have. The vocabulary is right in front of us. It's essentially, the Dalai Lama said it's kindness. I have a friend from Taiwan. I said, "What do you think about God?" And she said, "Oh, that's ultimate kindness," she said. Mm-hmm. I thought, yeah, well, that's right. In its own way, that can be translated to begin to see that we have choices in how we behave, and that inner self that I like to think of as our soul, is our interface with that vitality, with that energy. I see supernaturalism is that religions have got us thinking about God that looks like a human figure, looks like Charlton Heston or somebody on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, a human, beautiful human being who's got angels with wings and that kind of supernaturalness. And if we just think about how really can God be in human form up in the skies? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And so, but the fact that there is some kind of a force out there, some creation of not just human life, but of the universe. There's an interesting piece later in the book. I'm just going to jump ahead to that. This meteorite that fell in Australia in 1969, I think it was. And they studied it thinking, well, this might be a piece of what the universe was like. It's about as old as the universe. Let's see what it's made up of. And they took it apart, and they found it's got 20 amino acids that are present in all of life forms. I'm not really so well steeped in the science of it, but it's kind of astonishing to think that some of the minerals and some of the elements in the universe are also, of course, present in our own cellular structure. And so then I got thinking, well, how did our cellular structure start? And I think it was Dawkins who made some reference to all these minerals and elements that are in this primordial ooze that pretty soon there's a bubble here and a bubble out, and there's some going on and some cellular structure beginning billions of years ago. And evolution has certainly borne that out. And Dawkins has pointed out that all the DNA that's in everything we've got is common to our own DNA. So I guess that's part of the naturalness of God. It's not somebody just, making a Garden of Eden and carving a female figure out of a rib from a man and all these other stories that represent what religion was like when those scriptures were written. I, first of all, was thrilled to be down at Esalen East in New York in 1972 and see some of people that I admired very much, and Alan Watts was one of them. And he said he's up on stage and he says, "What my presentation today," and he's speaking to 200 or 300 people in the stands, and is that I'm going to play the part or be a patient in a mental hospital And my diagnosis is paranoia, and it's because I tell people that I am God, and I can't be convinced otherwise. And so he says, your part in this little drama that we're going to have in our workshop today is that all of you can ask me any questions or say anything you want to me and try to persuade me or dissuade me from this belief that I am God. And I thought, what an interesting approach to getting a point across. And I raised my hand first off, and I said, am I God also? And he said, of course. And I thought, okay, no more questions. I see where you're coming from. It's just that owning that piece of naturalness of the creator or creative force in all of us. And so afterwards I went up to him and asked him, I said, why don't you claim that a little bit more strongly here and rather than just playing the part of some mental patient? And he said, because I don't want to get crucified. And I thought, well, okay, I see where you're coming from, but I was a little disappointed. I was looking for some leadership here. I want to say these things. Why can't you help me find the way? It's kind of I was just a young professional in those days, but I did admire his approach to waking us up a little bit about that very piece, and try to extend that into my. And he wrote an article which I liked very much too, called "The Future of Ecstasy." And in that, he has a little phrase, and he says, the natural state of humans should be one of ecstatic wonder. Mm-hmm. And that phrase blew me out of the air. I mean, it's just like,